Welcome to Hope for Anxiety and OCD, episode 105. I am joined here once again by my lovely husband, Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome. And we've been doing this kind of like as a tradition almost every year. It actually started before we got married. We did an episode about our dating experiences. And then the first year of marriage, I was pregnant. I just remember crying a lot in that episode because we didn't know what was going on with your eyes other than we knew you had lost vision at that point. It was super scary thinking about all the uncertainties there. Then you had just been diagnosed with neurological conditions, spinocerebellar ataxia. When we sat down and thought about what is it that we want to talk about for our third year of marriage, now that we've been married for almost 3 years, and this scripture had come to mind. Psalm 30, verse 5 says, "Weeping may stay overnight, but there is joy in the morning." And so we thought about titling this episode, Joy in the Morning. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about why we chose that?
Yes, because I think going through trials, as everyone does, our trials that we have dealt with, there have been tears and there have been difficult moments, but the joy that comes out of that, being able to look back and say, oh my goodness, I've made it through this, and it gives others hope that may be going through the same thing. That's the beauty of going through something difficult, is when you make it to the other side, to a better place at least, you can share that with someone and help them as well. And we have been through a lot. It has been difficult, but we've done it with a smile, as best as we can anyway. So that's it's a good verse.
Yeah. I mean, some of the highlights really of this year of you adjusting to a CA diagnosis and realizing that you can still be involved in ministry that you'd like to be involved with. And I wish we had a picture of your crazy hair day at VBS.
That was so much fun. They'd asked me to at church. Well, they didn't ask me, but I signed up for VBS, which was a challenge at the time because I'd yet to serve in any way by myself amidst all the chaos of all those wonderful kids who were having fun. And here I am with my walker and trying to scoot through and make it work, but having a blast. And they had different themes for each day, whether it be sports or whatever. And one of those days was Crazy Hair Day. And so I said, why not? So each night I participated, but that was probably the best one for me because as a bald man, I was able to wear a wig with blue hair. I think it was. Was it blue?
No, it was all white.
All right, there we go.
But
with
you had a
blue
blue headband.
That's what it was. I knew something had to have been blue, but A, there's my memory for you, and B, there's my eyesight for you. But yes, it was all white hair. I remember that now. And it was crazy. It was out there, and I got so many comments on that, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Right. Yeah. And then this summer, you took a mission trip to Guatemala, which was the first time that you had been really since COVID and us getting married, having a baby. There were all these different things that happened.
That was one of those experiences I did not know if I was going to get to continue with. But the team that I went with was so gracious and so giving, so compassionate. And they knew where my heart was. They knew that they wanted me to go on that team with them. And they invited me. And that was such a humbling thing. I never had to ask for help, whether I thought I needed it or not. And more times than not, I did need help. They were right there by my side to grab a bag, help me up and down the stairs, which is funny because I took a walker with me, a smaller walker that would be easier to pack and carry and all that stuff. Takes up less space. I never got to use that thing except for in the airport one time because flat ground doesn't exist where we were. There was no way of using that. So many stairs and different things. Anyways, the team was so good, though, to help me and make sure I got from point A to point B, got to teach with people, and the people in Guatemala were so gracious as well with their time and compassionate, too. So it was a blessing.
Right. And I think you got some positive feedback from people there that your story was just inspirational, that you had made the sacrifice to go to another country, because you could have easily said, "Oh, I've done mission trips for years. My time is over and I have this disability. It's time for me to just kick back and rest.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'll never forget this. Pastor Mark, who led the group, he had made the comment when we were discussing whether I should go or not, that we have people with like club feet and different things that come to see us. Why not have someone else come to see them with a problem, whatever, a disability? And I thought, I hadn't thought about it that way. I just thought, how am I going to be able to do this? It's all I was focused on. That really changed the way that I thought about it. Yeah, when I got there, the people were just so, I don't know, I think it was a different way of looking at things for them too. Someone who has a disability came to speak with them. It was a cool thing in the end. It was very humbling though.
This year has been a lot about making adjustments and acceptance of our new normal, I guess you could call it, like our new life situation. And it comes with a lot of changes and challenges in relationships and in day-to-day life. What's been your experience of that?
Definitely had to adjust and change in order to, you can sit on a couch or sit in the bed and cry and give in, or you can tweak how you do things. You can change or adjust to the new norm. And that's what I've done. And I still do the things that I like to do. I don't get to go outside as often and I don't get to go hiking. However, there are ways that I can do things. I'm very happy the life that I'm living, getting to do those things. I still get to go meet with my friends from time to time, and I can't just get in the car and drive there, but I still get to go. So there's no complaints. It's still a blessing, and still get to play with our child and do all the fun things that I think are important.
Yeah, Faith just turned 18 months old, and she's a little firecracker sometimes, but it's been a journey, lots of learning, lots of adjustment, lots of growing as parents. And I think all these things that we're talking about related to your marriage is like, these are things that can either bring you closer together or can create conflict and end up driving you farther apart.
Definitely. I think that for us, you always have to look forward. You have to pick your battles. I constantly tell myself that, not so much with you, but with Faith, just with our daughter, trying to figure out, okay, she's upset. Why is she upset? Or she is like most children. She gets her mindset for something. I want to carry that blanket around and drag it while we walk outside. I want to drag it through the dirt and I never want to let it go. She's sometimes reminds me of Linus with those blankets, but sometimes you have to decide, okay, how important is it for me to take this blanket away from her or to take whatever, this toy or whatever it is? Is it really a deal breaker if she hangs on to it? Am I training her in the wrong way if I let her hang on to that? Or so there's a lot of decision making there, but sometimes I've learned it's okay to let her hang on for it just a minute longer. And then whenever she forgets about it, take it away and hide it and she'll never think of it and you didn't have to deal with the fuss. So I don't know that that always works, but picking your battles is very, very important.
Yeah, no, I think that that's true in a relational sense. And what you were talking about before, essentially honoring your limitations, I think is helpful for all of our listeners, really just listening to your body. And there's some days that you are able to do more than other days. And some days you're very fatigued and just have to take it easy. And all you may get done is one load of laundry and that's it. And that's a hard thing to accept. And just in terms of the mental health realm, it's like, okay, some days I may be prepared to socially interact in a certain way with others. And some days I just may not be able to do that, and respecting and honoring like my body and where I'm at today.
You have to decide sometimes if you're going through fatigue, are you not feeling well and you need rest, or are you just depressed and pushing away people? Because that's a big difference. There are days, I'll be honest, I just don't feel like doing the people thing. But it's just me being whatever, me being me or me wanting to just avoid people. And then there are other days I really want to be around people, but my body is just too tired and I need to rest. Those are decisions that you have to think about, I think, for me, in the sense of, is it me or is my body just really needing the rest? Mm-hmm. And so more times than not, for me, it's my body really needs the rest. And so I have to force myself to lay down I'm not a very good stop and rest person. I'm getting better at it, but not by choice because I have to.
Usually it's other people telling you to sit down rather than
Yes.
you making the decision to
Yes.
sit down.
And anyone that knows me knows I was always a person that just wanted to go. Just not that I couldn't stop, but I didn't like to sit down. I like to fix things. If something is on my mind, I want to finish it. I'm not a procrastinator. But when you have something like I have, you have to sit down. It's not procrastinating. It's resting up until you can do it.
I wanted to bring something up, and we can always cut this out if you don't want us to talk about this. But without going into a lot of details, we had a communication issue come up in our marriage this year where we were both unhappy with one aspect of our life. Do you know what I'm talking about? And neither one of us said anything because we're both conflict avoiders. And then finally I kind of got up the courage and I said, hey, I don't know about you, but I'm kind of unhappy in this one area. And so then it was surprising for you to say, yeah, me too. And then we were able to do something about it. And so I just wanted to share with our listeners that sometimes it's hard to bring up those difficult topics in your marriage and talk about hard things that make you feel uncomfortable, or you're concerned that's going to make your spouse feel uncomfortable or that they might be mad at you.
Yeah, that was one of those things when you said it, when you said something to me, I thought, yes, I agree. And it wasn't a bad thing.
Right.
It wasn't she's acting this kind of way and I'm annoyed. No, it wasn't that. It was literally a communication issue. It's like mentally sitting at that four-way stop and neither one of us are going. But we're both annoyed with the other because we think it's their turn or we think something's not right here. Just go. When you said something, I thought, oh, good, yes, absolutely. And we dealt with it and everything went well. So from then on, things have been better in that area. So yeah, sometimes I think for me, I tend to be the go with the flow type personality. Mm-hmm. And something will bother me and I'm like, it's really not that big of a deal. Just suck it up. And really, you don't want to gripe every time something comes up. And I've been that guy too, I'll be honest. But you also don't want to just, no big deal, and keep pushing it away and pushing it away. And then one day you're going to blow up. It's not pretty. So sometimes it's better to talk. And the struggle is, how do you bring it up? How do you say it? That always comes up because when I say things, I tend to be a very sarcastic person. I've really had to work on that. I'm nowhere near success in that department. I've worked on my sarcasm because I like to be funny and sarcastic, but it doesn't work when you're trying to communicate in a serious moment. It's always taken as a negative, even though I may not mean it that way in my mind. For instance, if you say, Steve, I really need to go to the store or the library, and my response is, oh, goody, I can't wait. I may think nothing of that. I meant simply as humor. But when you say that enough, it bleeds out as, this jerk doesn't even want to go, and he doesn't have the guts to just say, I don't really want to go, Carrie. Is that okay? Instead, it's, oh, goody. So the sarcasm doesn't help me, and I've had to work on that. Honest moment.
Well, I think coming to a place of, when you say this, I hear this in your marriage relationship, because men and women communicate things differently. And there are times where you'll say something and I'm like, I heard this. And then you'll say, no, that's not at all what I said.
Yes. And I am so caught off guard in those moments. But again, it may be how I'm saying it or the pattern of how I've said it before. So I think that really, you could set a tone.
Yeah. But it also taps into what I'm learning, your past relational baggage.
Sure.
Because it's okay, I hear him talking like my dad or talking like my ex or something like that. And then I'm absorbing it through that lens. I don't even realize that I'm doing it at that point until maybe later. And I have moments of self-reflection. I think that piece comes up in marriage a lot.
Sure, and I think that's why I've always heard the first 2 years of marriage is the most difficult. I think it could go beyond that, I don't know, but I think the reason is because you're kind of getting through communication and likes, dislikes, all of that stuff. You're learning about your other half. I hope we can be one of those cute older couples that everybody wants to go, oh my gosh, they're going to make me throw up. Or they say, they're so cute. The old couple that's smooching and holding hands. Anyways. So you hope when you're older, you don't even have to say anything. You just know what the other person would think.
Yeah, in this process of growing together, I always tell clients that like you're either growing with someone or you're growing apart from them because you might be growing at different levels. And I've seen that definitely happen in friendships. I've seen that happen to various people in romantic relationships. So always like keeping those lines of communication open, being self-aware and knowing like what you're contributing to the relationship, what might be detrimental to your relationship, and how to work on those things. And I think if we can look at it as kind of like we were talking about our communication, it's not always bad. Like sometimes we just need some enrichment in certain areas. There's not a problem yet, or there's not a crisis. And if you can catch it before something becomes a problem or becomes a crisis, or before we feel like, oh, we just don't talk about that at all, if you can address it on the front end, it's a lot easier than waiting for things to, like you said, build up, and then somebody blows up or somebody withdraws or walks away.
Absolutely. And I think, too, that sometimes we get angry in our head, and that builds up. And to the point where, and you say this about Faith all the time, that she doesn't even know why she's angry.
Mm-hmm.
Something triggered you, and then you state, not you, but in general. And I've had this to me, and I stop and I think, why in the world am I even angry? I don't even know why. And it may simply be, I just don't feel well. And I really have to stop and say, okay, I cannot take that out on anyone. That is not fair. I just need to shush, just not say anything, just let it go. Try to remember those techniques of how to calm down or how to relax. And then there are other times where I really did have something that bothered me, but I didn't want to say anything at the moment. And I held it in, and then kaboom, it's not pretty. All over something really silly.
I think timing is important in terms of bringing up topics in your marriage. It's hard to know. A lot of times you can't necessarily bring something up when there's all that heat of the emotion on both sides. Like you have to take a break, like pause. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's go to our separate spaces, reflect on it, pray about it, and then come back together and talk about like what in the world just happened with that last interaction. I don't even know, but we went from happy couple to all of a sudden we're at each other's throats or something.
That would be those moments when I have to say, okay, Steve, calm down. Why are you really upset? Or, okay, maybe it's justifiable, your reasoning for being upset, but there's two of us in this marriage. So what can I do? What can I say to try to calm this down? And there's no hero. There's no winner.
Mm-hmm.
There's no individual here. How do we do this together? How do we work? And that's hard because we always want to win. We always want to be right. As humans, as people, you always want to be in the right. And we never stop and think, it seems, most of us don't, maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I need to change the approach. Maybe I'm not wrong, but my approach is all wrong, or how I'm saying it, or whatever. And that's where it's difficult because the focus is on you to change. And that's hard. We always want the other person to change.
Right. And I think working with our daughter and trying to help her when she has these completely age-appropriate meltdowns because she's been teething or she refused her nap that day or her stomach hurts and we don't even know about it. You know, all these things that come up. And in the moment, it seems like it's, no, I want the banana over the strawberries. Really, it has nothing to do with that at all. It's all these other factors, and knowing that we can have the opportunity to bring the calm into the situation and like get down on her level and talk to her and like, okay, you know, I can see you're really upset right now.
Well, and that's very
here's
difficult
a hug.
In general. And it's easy for a couple, I think, with children to have problems because they have a child or children, in our case, a child, that may have been screaming for 20 straight minutes at the top of their lungs. And you're just at wit's end to just please make it go away. Just stop. Not the child, the screaming. And then the communication between the two of you can be rather snappy. And it's not personal. It's just, give me the sippy cup. Take the child here. Just do this. And it's nothing personal. It's just, oh my gosh, have you checked your diaper lately? There's always something. And it's those moments you kind of look at later and go, I'm sorry, I may have been a little snappy. It's hard to keep your focus on how to calm her down and you're going off on your spouse. Just a difficult thing.
Yeah. And I think, too, there's that element where sometimes we'll be trying to have a conversation in the car, and then all of a sudden in the back seat, it's because she can't really talk fully
She wants
yet.
to join in.
Yeah.
And those are the moments I kind of smile to myself and then just begin to insert her name every fourth word. Maybe asking you, when we go to the store, are we going to buy this, that, or the other? And then I insert her name, which makes no sense in real time, but when talking with her, she just hears her name and is happy to be a part of the conversation, I'm hoping.
In spite of all the difficult things that have happened this year, in terms of our themes of joy comes in the morning, now we're going to talk about kind of where you see things going in the future.
Yeah, I think that there are so many opportunities that have come up already, be it with church or missions or whatever. There's just so much to look forward to. And I know that there are going to be, as the song said, Mama said there'd be days like this. There are going to be those days, but I look forward to good things as well. And I think that there are some really neat things coming up the pike. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that some of my doctor visits, my annual checkups are already behind me. Got my eyes taken care of and no major change there. And that's a blessing. My neurological visits and all that are coming up, and some of them have already passed. Actually, they've already passed for a while. So those are good things. I look forward to those. Most people don't like the doctor's visits, but I like them because I get the news and I'm done with it for a while. Get it behind me. I'm looking forward to what's coming up the pike for sure.
Yeah, and when you have this degenerative disease, so stability is a blessing. Things staying the same and not deteriorating further is always a positive. So we just appreciate that whenever we hear that. Just in general, that your health numbers are doing well.
Those are doing really well. And on top of that, knowing that I am doing as well as I am, it's been a blessing in the sense that when we first got this diagnosis, we didn't know. It almost gave me the feeling like, golly, I could die tomorrow. But now I've heard since where there are individuals who have the same thing. Maybe we don't necessarily know which
type.
Yes, thank you. Which type that I have, but we know that I have it. And the lifespan, again, I thought, golly, I could die tomorrow. Who couldn't die tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And I hear about people who have been living to be 80 years old. And I hear about, because of what they've discovered through studies for Parkinson's disease, they've been able to say, hey, that'll work for SCA as well. And that kind of, now I'm not on this medication, but for certain types of SCA, they can take this medication and it kind of slows it down a little bit, they think. I don't have all the details on that, but I just know that it's exciting that they found something. Those types of things are exciting to me. That's definitely something to consider a joy. And that I can get up and spend the time with my family and enjoy the days that I have now and make the very best of each day. That's exciting.
Yeah, we got involved in an SCA support group and have just learned so much through the other individuals, things that have worked for them, been helpful, not helpful, and then been able even to take some of that information like to your eye appointment and say, hey, this was recommended to us, or we found out this doesn't work as well with SCA. That's been a blessing. I think for me and just this whole podcast journey and our relationship, I really want to be able to impact more people positively for the kingdom, just continuing to spread messages of hope that people can get the help that they need out there. And I know that you have really stepped in and been a big support in promoting the podcast, even just sometimes one-on-one talking to people or just supporting me going to the AACC conference when that happened. There were some long days there, and you had more duties and responsibilities at home or with Faith. I just appreciate everything that you've done to help support this podcast. It's been a wild ride, and it's hard to believe that it's been about 3 years now, and just all the things that God has done and doors that He's opened, and to be able to launch the course recently. And I hope this next year to work on a book. I'm thinking it's going to be for Christians with anxiety. Kind of done some focus on OCD, and they want to do some writing about anxiety. So I'm not exactly sure what direction or bent I'm going to go with that. I want to provide some practical tools, help, and support for people who are experiencing that. But just excited to see what the Lord's going to do. And we are hopeful to possibly be able to move in 2024. Praise the Lord. So
Yes.
we are looking for a more better accessible housing than we have right now. Not that our housing is bad as far as you getting around. It's just not going to serve us for the future. And we know that. And so we are really trying to get either something that's more one level or flatter yard or something that's going to be more
flat
workable.
is the key word there. At least as far as the yard goes, and fewer steps and all of that. And also, I'd like to say that I'm really proud of you for how much effort and time and all of that you've put into the podcast and your work and what you do. And knowing you as I do, of course, I'm going to brag on you, but you really put a lot of heart into what you do. And I think it shows. I definitely think it shows. And it's exciting that I remember when you hadn't even started the podcast and now you're on number 105 or something crazy like that. That's wonderful. And there are days, I'll be honest, I listen and I think, going to need a dictionary because I don't know what any of that means because I'm not in that world. And then I'll listen. I go, oh, well, that's really interesting. I never knew that. I tell people if I'm talking to someone at the doctor's office or wherever, and they say, I have a problem with anxiety and, oh, I have a perfect help for you here. I always try to remind them that if look through the episodes, because there may be one that really stands out to you. It's not focused on one little thing. And even when it's not something that you're necessarily interested in, as you listen, you find, well, wow, that's got a lot for me to take away. I had no clue that that pertained to me as well, or that I would get that much out of it. So it's not boring. I'll give it that. It's very informative, and I enjoy that. So good job.
Well, thank you. I want all of our listeners to know that I made some great connections at the AACC conference. So that means more interesting guests to come next year. And kind of now that we've had over 100 episodes, we're able to just branch down different rabbit holes. There's still more things to talk about. It's kind of surprising that there's always new topics and ways that we can apply what we're learning to help with anxiety and OCD. So everyone definitely stay tuned. We have some free resources on our website I'd love to tell you about too. And you can go to hopeforanxietyandocd.com/free to get those. We have our download from our 100th episode on 100 ways to help you manage anxiety. We have an OCD resource, 5 things every Christian with OCD needs to know. So we've got a few different things going on there and would love to have you check those resources out. Thank you everyone so much for listening today. Hope for Anxiety and OCD is a production of By the Well Counseling. Our show is hosted by me, Carrie Bach, licensed professional counselor in Tennessee. Opinions given by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of myself or By the Well Counseling. Our original music is by Brandon Mangrum. Until next time, may you be comforted by God's great love for you.